Rush Hour News headlines going in depth today with a win for the Twin Cities and hopefully a win for a relatively new ag tech company that is really chosen to have a headquarters in the Twin Cities. I wanted to talk with CEO Chris Abbott from Pivot Bio. He's with us on the John Schuster Coldwell Banker Hotline because, Chris, I think this metro area has felt like, all right, it's been challenging. The political situation has been challenging. It's been emotionally challenging. The economic situation. And to have a company like yours say, no, I want to be in Minnesota, I think is worth exploring. So thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Jason. We are super excited.
You were founded in out on the West Coast, right? Pivot in 2011?
That's right. About 15 years old, founded in the Bay Area. And most recently, the move will be taking us from Berkeley to the Twin Cities.
I think there are a lot of, we're sort of modest in the Midwest. We don't like to brag. And sometimes I think people here like to beat up on ourselves more than claim the win. So why did you could have gone anywhere. You decided in 2025 you're going to move closer to the Midwest. Why did you pick here?
Yeah, it's actually exactly as you just described, right? We don't need the hot air. We want the humility. We want folks and partners in a climate which are focused on building businesses. It's a great place to live. I grew up here. And so we looked everywhere, right? We looked at cities in the Midwest. We obviously evaluated California and Northern California. We even looked at the East Coast, places like Raleigh-Durham and other places where there's big life science and agriculture, sort of hotbeds, little pockets. And ultimately, we choose Minnesota as our place because we've got, as I would sort of say, like the perfect combination, right? We've got strategic partners. We've got our customers. So we can drive from our offices here in the Carlson Towers. In half hour, I could be on a cornfield of one of my customers. So to be that close to a customer does tremendous things for our team, how we serve our customers, and how we continue to advance innovation. So that's a no-brainer. But you know what? We've got capital providers here. We've got access to talent with the university system. And as I mentioned, some of our largest strategic partners, other large food and ag companies are here. So for all those reasons, it was an absolute no-brainer. You did allude to in the beginning of the question around some of the challenges our state has seen. I would flip it the other way. It's amazing through those challenges what we've seen where Minnesota has become really one state rather than sort of polarizing perspectives on these issues. And so that in itself is also a strength. And actually, I think part of the reason it's getting easier and easier to attract talent here, and we want to play a role in that.
Pivot Bio is the name of the company. We're talking with the CEO, Chris Abbott, who is here in the Twin Cities right now. Your firm is valued at about $2 billion. You've got 250 employees. One of the things I find fascinating about the sector that you're in is that I see this as a huge opportunity for our area, right? We don't need to be manufacturing cars necessarily in Minnesota. But if you can have every innovator when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to fertilizer, different technology, man, like this could be a very powerful job generating, revenue generating for the state, a sector of the economy to have, like for us to own that in Minnesota.
Yeah. You're hitting on two things. Number one, businesses like ours serve a whole array of talent. Right. We have folks out in rural America, dozens of folks serving our growers, serving our distribution partners. That continues to drive growth of rural communities. We attract people with PhDs, world-class microbiologists, ecologists, chemists, because they work on the biologic solutions that we have. And then we have folks that join us from non-specialty areas, meaning they might join us from Fortune 500 companies here in town that say, I want to be a part of, as you're alluding to, the future of this industry. I care about agriculture, or I care about sustainability, and maybe I'm a finance person or I'm an HR person. They say, that's the mission I want to be a part of. And so we get to attract fantastic talent in that way. And so it really runs the gamut. It's not just scientists. Frankly, I'm not a scientist. But what draws people to Pivot typically is mission-driven around helping farmers helping the environment, or they just have deep roots and interest in agriculture. And so people, as I say, come to us for different reasons, but very much mission driven. And I think that allows us to attract talent, not just here, but from talent outside of Minnesota. And
your product is sort of a gene edited microbe that helps plants create nitrogen. So, better for the environment, cheaper than synthetic fertilizer. Lots of good about it, so you can see why people want to be a part of it. When you're weighing where you're going to locate, taxes, we talk a lot about taxes. Politicians always talk about taxes, the cost of doing business in Minnesota. Does access to talent or access to your market, does that kind of outweigh those business cost type questions?
Yeah, I think, look, you can't look at these things in a vacuum. So certainly access to partners, access to customers, access to talent, those things are all important. We get asked the question around taxes all the time. To be fair, our company came from California. So if you want to talk taxes, there's a whole nother argument there.
Right.
People pay taxes. They just want them spent in the right way, right? So that's our challenge, all of us as Minnesotans, is how do we continue to invest back in the state, whether that's private dollars, public dollars. So, it certainly plays a role in this, but this is on all of us to make this a great place to live. If that's the case, it's not a tax issue in a vacuum. And so if we can play a role bringing innovation, bringing growth to the economy, bringing in new talent, continuing to drive that sort of positive vibe, right, that you can feel when these things happen. We've seen them in other states and in other metropolitan areas. That's where the magic can happen. So we look at it in, sort of a multifaceted way and, try to keep each other honest in all those dimensions. But we're just super excited on what the future brings and whatever small role we can play in the broader equation here in Minnesota.
It's really cool. Let's hope it's the beginning of a movement that starts growing here. Chris Abbott, CEO of Pivot Bio, and we're cheering for your success. So thanks for being with us.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.